out of hand. I talked about the way the guy took the controller out of the girl's hand, and that article I reviewed that can be taken into context or a matter of perception, and how men do that to men. I've talked about how there are plenty the STEM fields. Like, again, a lot of people say that the STEM, like, there aren't enough women in STEM fields and they're barred from entering, which isn't true. And the article I pulled up earlier, and let me pull it up again. I want to show it to you guys again. The article earlier has showed that. Well, wrong one. Let me find it. Hang on. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so we're going to bring her over here. So, this is the article that had said... Oh, wait, no. Sorry, this is the women in gaming industry. Damn it, this isn't the STEM field. This is the STEM fields that I wanted to talk about. This is an article done by PBS, and they're saying that the STEM group gender gap is actually overblown. It's actually not disproportionate as much as people would like to think. And they show, the charts and graphs and stuff like that. And who knows if one could argue this might not be a full credible source. As you can see, there's some advertisements over here on the right that usually that's a good. Why do I bring that up? A lot of people take websites like this not as a credible source, and in school you would not be able to use this article as a credible source. However, that does not mean that the information that they're saying in it is true. It just means oftentimes they present opinions in it intermingled with facts, which can be a problem. Now, I talked about how that's a problem with Anita Sarkeesian's information. So you might ask yourself, Mr. Mass, why are you then using that in your arguments? The difference between me and Anita Sarkeesian and other people is I'm transparent about that, okay? So this is an article I found that talks about that issue, that does support an opinion that I have, that gap isn't true. My father works in nursing. He defies a gender stereotype. Okay, that is a position typically seen as a woman. Now they try and say that. Remember, STEM stands for science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. That is not always the case. There's a disparagement in gender. Now there is only one field again. And this article talks about it, that women show there appears to be a lower level of of women in this field, and that is the computer sciences and software development, stuff like that. So we're just going to call it computer sciences. That's like a holistic, a holistic view to it all. Okay, already everyone. You gave me a model thing. Have a good morning. Okay, see you later, Legendary. Thanks for coming in. It was good talking to you. They have majors in STEM fields. That's true, Dr. Ko. Okay, when I was in school for CS, I don't know what CS is, computer sciences, there was one other woman in the same year. If women want jobs in STEM fields, they have to major in the field. It's true. We have to ask ourselves why that is. Well, statistically, it's actually not even true that there is a disparagement of women in STEM fields. According to this article and other articles like it, this wasn't the only one. And what do you call a male nurse? I don't know, a nurse. That's what you call them. That's the point, not being sexist, right? According to this article, it alleges that is not, in fact, not the case. A guy with more patience than me. Oh, that's good. I get it. Patience. Okay. My dad would like that joke. That article talks about why, how that's not the case in mathematics. There's a very close number of females to males in mathematics and science and engineering and all those fields, except for computer science. Now, you might ask yourself, why is it? Well, computer science is kind of unique, and that is kind of like, if it is a male-dominated group, and that's not the case with these other STEM fields, then is that necessarily accurate or indicative of this gender oppression that we've been talking about? I don't think that's the case. I just think that women haven't majored in the field, as Dr. Ko was saying, as you pointed out. I think it's more than likely, I don't think you can really attribute sexism to the fact that women aren't involved in the computer sciences. It's more likely that women have fallen into more traditional gender roles than in fact they have wanted to, or maybe that's just not their areas of interest. Men, scientifically speaking, are much more visual. They're visually active. They use visual motor. Their visual motor capacity tends to be higher than a woman's. Now, women also demonstrate a higher levels of capability and knowledge, slightly, just ever so slightly, in the field of like mathematics. So, or several other things. And it's not by much, it's just by a little, but it's enough to make maybe that is what's making a difference. So men really like to visually look at things and then manipulate things with their hands. And if you look at studies of cognition, I can provide references for you guys if you guys would like on these kinds of gender differences. It does not make someone more superior. It merely gives them an edge. And I'm merely saying that, scientifically speaking, that could perhaps play a role in influencing why women aren't in the computer sciences. That doesn't mean that women are not in those fields. They're just underrepresented. And I think we have to look at the issue critically rather than just chalking it all up to sexism and saying, well, Matthew Tyler wore a sexist shirt, therefore no women are welcome astrophysicists. I hardly doubt the case, and that's the case. And judging by his tearful apology, unless that guy's a really good actor, he seemed very genuine, and he was very shocked by the whole reaction. That is another example of something being blown out of proportion, and about how it's not. It was not indicative of the fact that there was actual sexism in the field. Yeah, she does. She pulls down a lot of cash. That also pays into you can also use that in the gender pay gap. Now, people will say they've argued in other arguments, and one of the papers articles I linked to you again. One of the earlier articles I showed talked about a pay. I think it mentioned the pay gap. Now, women as a whole are not paid any less than men are. That is actually not true. Now, or they might be paid less when you look at it collectively, but there are reasons why. The reasons why women often are paid less are not. It's not. It does not mean that it's due to sexism and that men don't want to pay women more. I've worked with plenty of women, and women have they've been outpaid, scaled me. They made more money than me. In the service industry, just working for tips, women always made more than me. Is that a proponent of sexism because they waited on male customers and males like to tip women more than they do typically men? I think a lot of cases, I would say so. If a woman smiles and flirts with a guy a little bit, it's going to go a lot way, and he'll probably tip her a lot more. And those Neko cafes in Japan are very successful for a reason. Is that sexism? Maybe. That those women are objectifying themselves for a profit. So obviously they're okay with that, and they're owning their own sexuality to make money. As strippers are the same thing. Now, is that over objectification of her body? Obviously it is. She's objectifying her body to the male gaze to make cash to pay for whatever she wants to buy. New hues. I don't know. Is that sexism, though? Probably, but it goes on both sides. It goes both ways. And to say that it's just merely men, I don't think it's an accurate representation of the issue. So here again in the STEM fields, again we're seeing, or this gender pay gap. Why we got to ask, why are women being paid less? So a lot of people will say, well, women are being paid less because the male patriarchy wants to oppress them and doesn't want them paying more as men. That is not the case. A business isn't, again, going over what a business model is. A business's business is to make money. They don't give a fuck who works for them as long as they're competent and they get the job done and they don't piss people off and they bring in more money. If you work hard, if you work your ass off and you promote yourself, I think that any woman could out-classify a man. Carly Fiorina and Michelle Palin are excellent examples of that. Now, Michelle Palin has been looked at as a joke, which is ironic and kind of sexist when you think about it, because a lot of people that say this is sexist, are the same people that persecuted a woman from Alaska who kind of talks like this, you kind of talks like this, don't you know, she has a weird accent, she's kind of goofbally, she says some off-colored remarks or some ignorant things or some things every now and then, and they want to tear her down, but they fervently defend someone like Michelle Obama, because she's just a great example of triumphant success when she wants to tell kids, like, you need to eat this really shitty food. I don't know if you guys have ever eaten school cafeteria food in high school or elementary school. It fucking sucks. Have you ever had vegetables normal vegetables suck. Okay, they just suck. Most people have a problem with vegetables. There's always a vegetable that they don't like, and they would prefer a steak over a vegetable. Not most people. A lot of people, okay? Let's say a lot of people, okay? And I'm sure most kids can recall vegetables, not liking a vegetable when they're a kid. Yet, she promotes this stuff about regulating, like, health and nutrition in schools, and kids don't want to eat it, and they're throwing these lunches out and wasting all this money. And she wants to force them to eat this to where you can't bring this food to school. Or, sorry, that might be a misrepresentation of the facts. There are certain schools that want to enforce that. Not necessarily Michelle Obama, and there are some people that allege that towards her nutritional diet. Or some of the things that maybe, like, she said about, like, this and that or whatever. So I just think that's funny how they'll tear down one person because they're on this side of the argument. They'll build up another person. It's kind of ironic that they wouldn't rally around behind all of their sisters rather than just like these ones over here. So I don't really dig on that. So we also have we talked about STEM fields. We talked about Matthew Perry again in the shirt and the stuff like that. And how women are forced out of the fields. We were getting into the... Hi, Scotty. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We were talking about the pay gap a little bit. Why are women paid less? It's because women oftentimes fall into traditional gender roles at home. It's not necessarily in the workplace. It's at home. So you have women wanting to have babies or children or families, men and women wanting to have families. And they're saying, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that next step. And women are alleging that they cannot have a career and a family. Well, a business is in the business to make money. They're not there to be fiddly-diddly and give people 8 weeks of vacation time and then expect to come back to a job where they're same pay and equal pay, like all this higher pay, and they want raises and they want the time off and they want everything to be paid for, full medical benefits, all that stuff. They need to understand that stuff, all that stuff costs money. It costs resources. It costs time. If you're working in a very competitive field, you need to work competitively. That's why you're seeing so many women wait to have children, wait to get married, because they're pursuing their goals. So it's not exactly accurate to say that there is a gender pay gap and it's oppressing towards women because of the fact that men don't like women or they want to suppress them. That is not the case. I am sure that there have been cases of men, managers or whatever, possibly doing this. However, that is not an issue in society. That is not a societal issue that is affecting women as a whole, being targeted, vindictively targeted by malicious men looking to hunt them down and pay them an unequal wage. I think that's very inaccurate to say. He's holding his breath. Yeah, dude. And I think that's kind of ignorant to say. I think we got to look at the issue for those reasons. So you have women wanting to have families and they want to stay home. Women, whether it's been dictated by cultural norms, need to stay at home and be nurturing. Most women want to be with their children. They don't want a stranger raising their children. I wrote a paper on this actually in school discussing some of these issues about women being... achieving women developmental issues. I had to write a paper on it, and there was two feminists that took an argument, they deconstructed it, and they debated the pros and cons, and they debated against each other. There were two different feminists, and I can present that information kind of in another podcast, but for the sake of time and stuff, I'm going to continue to go here. But I did talk about this issue, And as a whole, as